1 minute. 1 minute to the gentleman from California who is working on bipartisan forestry legislation, Leader McCarthy.
The gentleman from California is recognized.
I thank the gentleman for yielding. I thank him for his work. This is probably one of the most important areas, that his knowledge, what he works on when it comes to the forest and the healthy forest and making sure they're there for the future. I rise today in support of my amendment, which would simply establish a program to incentivize larger communities to integrate nearby smaller rural communities into their drinking water systems when the smaller communities' drinking water wells run dry. Now, in our district, the community of Tullyville has run out of water. As the groundwater table drops and aging infrastructure fails or becomes obsolete, while the long-term solution is to connect Tullyville to the city of Exeter drinking water system, that can be expensive for both Exeter and Tullyville. This amendment would reduce connection costs for Tullyville residents while also enabling Exeter to increase its water supply to meet increased demands with its customers. Now, Tulare County advises me that if California's droughts continue, more small and rural communities in our district with older infrastructure could meet the exact same fate. Groundwater tables drop, making this amendment even more important. We cannot leave our western communities vulnerable to drought and aging infrastructure, and I encourage my colleagues to support this amendment. Now, Madam Chairman, I ask unanimous consent to insert into the record the letters supporting my amendment from the County of Tulare, County of Kern, City of Exeter, of all which are located in this congressional district.
That request cannot be entertained in the committee of the whole.
Okay. Now, why are we asking for this amendment? The one thing you'd have to see, there has been no major new reservation built in California since 1979. Think of the population difference in between that time. California is very blessed. We get snow in the north. We grow the agriculture for the world in the Central Valley. My good friend from the other side of the area, I believe that's where his family's used to be from. And in the south, major population. But no new reservations. Now we've got challenges where cities are actually running out of water. But it's not that we don't have enough water. In those wet years, we can save it. We could even pump it in the ground to bring it back out. But in California, at times they care more about a fish, and the water goes out to the ocean. Now we talk about desal, so we'd spend billions of dollars to create a desalination plant for the fresh water we put into the ocean to make it salt water to bring it back into fresh water. Why wouldn't we just store more water for those dry years? You know, we've worked on this issue for quite some time. We actually think the greatest return on the investment would be to just lift Shasta Dam, the reservoir. If you simply enlarged it, it could store more. You know, we got to a bipartisan bill, the WIN Act, working with Dianne Feinstein. It passed this House with big numbers. It passed the Senate with more than 70 votes. But you know what happened after it passed? Speaker Pelosi and other Democrats fought it. Actually killed the ability that California could determine their own destiny. And now today, we come down, and this is supposed to be a wildfire bill. In my state, we have wildfires all the time. We have one raging right now. We have a very large one in Yosemite. And also in California, we're blessed with the only state in the world that grows the giant sequoias. You all know that iconic tree. You all know and seen it before. It grows 2,000 to 3,000 years old. History tells us the only major time we've ever seen a giant sequoia of them die was in 1297 from a fire. Normally they just die because they get so large and they topple over. But do you realize in the last 2 years we've lost 20% of all the giant sequoias? There's a warning right now that we can lose them all just in the next couple of years. Firefighters right now are risking their lives to protect them. But you know what? This body could be very proud of the fact that there is a bipartisan bill, Save Our Sequoias, with the same number of Democrats and Republicans on that piece of legislation that would go into these groves, clean out, and protect them where firefighters wouldn't have to risk their lives. Or even when fires came, these giant sequoias would continue to live. It's introduced. And how did that bill get introduced? Because a bipartisan group went to the giant sequoias, studied what needed to happen, came together. Everybody didn't get what they want, but at the end of the day, they could save the giant sequoias. You know what's not in this bill? Save our sequoias. This is a wildfire bill that won't even save the sequoias, even though the president talked about this just last week, that it was a big concern to him. Why wouldn't it get put in? It's not that it hasn't been through committee, because the committee won't bring it up, but that's not the pattern of the Democrats. It doesn't matter if you've been through committee or not. They'll drop anything in. But this is a bill that both sides agree upon. And I have to give credit to the Democrats, Congressman Peters, Panetta, and others who went to the giant sequoias and Costa to study the issue, to know what needs to be happened, to work towards it and make that, to save them. Why would we want to destroy them? Why in this opportunity would we not put it in this bill? Is it because it's bipartisan? Can you only bring bills to the floor that are partisan? You know, it's interesting when the constituents ask all the challenges on this floor. When the constituents were going to ask me about a firefighter bill to help save our forest, would eliminate 610 firefighters? Only a Democrat Congress could think that's a wildfire bill. That you're going to eliminate 610 firefighters. How's that going to protect them more? It's only in this Congress that you could ask a bill that's called America Rescue Plan that creates inflation. It's only in the American Rescue Plan that you could tell the American public, can you afford to lose a month's salary? No one will say yes, but that's exactly what you took from them. That's what inflation has done. This bill is needed. Not the bill you've written, but this issue. You have saved the sequoias. It's a crisis before us, and you will not even put it in the bill when it's bipartisan. But I cannot imagine that you would bring a bill forward that would eliminate firefighters in the need when we're on fire. And I cannot imagine that you wouldn't work to build more reservoirs so people can store water in the wet years so they'll be there in the dry years. With that, I yield back.
The gentleman yields.